If you're over 60 and find yourself waking up once, twice, maybe even 3 times a night just to pee, let me say this clearly. It's not just aging. And it's not necessarily your bladder or even an enlarged prostate. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, and I've spent over 30 years working with men in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, helping them sleep better, feel stronger, and regain control over their bodies without relying on another pill bottle. What I've seen over and over again is that the real reason many older men are losing sleep at night is something most have never been told. It's not a disease. It's not even something broken. It's a habit, one that seems harmless, private, even natural, but over time, it silently rewires the delicate system that controls your urination, your sleep, and yes, even your energy. And no, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to explain something no one's had the guts or heart to explain properly to men like you. How certain patterns of self-touch can, over decades, put pressure on the prostate, confuse the nerves that signal your bladder, and lead to unnecessary nighttime wake-ups that leave you groggy and frustrated by morning. But here's the part I want you to hear loud and clear. You can change this, starting tonight, gently, with awareness, no shame, just simple shifts that respect where your body is now, not where it was at 25. In this video, we'll walk through the connection between your bladder, your prostate, and your nervous system. You'll learn why the way you've been touching yourself, especially the position, the pressure, and the pace, might be silently triggering those 2 a.m. bathroom runs. And more importantly, I'll show you how thousands of men have reversed that cycle without pills, surgeries, or giving up their dignity. So if you've been waking up tired, confused, or quietly discouraged, stay with me. This isn't about embarrassment. It's about understanding. It's about healing. And most of all, it's about reclaiming your nights, your strength, and your sense of self. Let's begin.
1. The prostate, the bladder, and the nerve network you've never thought about. Let me tell you something that still surprises most of my patients, even the smart, well-read ones. Your bladder doesn't work alone. There's a trio at play here: your prostate, your bladder, and the pelvic nerves that coordinate both. Think of them like a team. If even one member gets irritated or misaligned, the whole operation stumbles. And here's the thing no one warns you about. As you get older, this system becomes much more sensitive, not sick necessarily, just more reactive. A little pressure here, a bit of inflammation there, and suddenly your bladder is waking you up at 2 a.m. with a false alarm, not because it's full, but because the nerves around it are misfiring, whispering, "Hey, better get up just in case." Let me give you an example. I once saw a patient named Harold, 74 years old, retired mechanic, tough hands, soft heart. He came to me frustrated, said he was waking up 3 times a night to pee. He'd already tried all the classics, stopped drinking water in the evening, peed right before bed, and even got on medication. Nothing worked. I asked him a question most doctors never bother to ask. "Tell me about your private habits, the ones you never mention." He looked down, hesitated, then said he often pleasured himself late at night, sitting down, hunched over, on the toilet. It had been his routine for decades. That was the moment it all clicked. Let me explain why. Your prostate is a walnut-sized gland that sits right underneath the bladder and wraps around the urethra, the very tube that carries urine out of your body. When you're young, it's flexible, resilient. But after 60, even gentle pressure, if applied in the wrong way and for too long, can cause microinflammation, tiny repeated irritations that build up slowly. Now picture this, sitting for long periods, especially hunched forward, tight in the belly, maybe even bearing down a bit. That's not just an awkward pose. It's a physical squeeze on your pelvic floor, the muscle group that holds your bladder and prostate in place. Add sexual stimulation to that tension, and your system starts tightening where it should be relaxing. And here's the kicker. Even if there's hardly any urine in your bladder, those irritated nerves fire anyway. "Go now," they shout. "Emergency!" And you wake up, shuffle to the bathroom, only to release a weak stream or nothing at all. That's not a failing bladder. That's a confused system. And trust me, you're not the only one. I've had dozens, maybe hundreds of men come in with this exact pattern. Their bodies haven't broken down. They've just been quietly misfiring because of small, unconscious habits they didn't even realize could matter. The good news? This is fixable. Not with more medication, but by changing how you treat that system, how you sit, how you stimulate, how you breathe, and how you listen to your body. So before you reach for another pill or accept another sleepless night, ask yourself, is it really my age, or is it how I've been treating this part of myself all these years? Because sometimes the solution isn't in doing more, it's in doing differently.
2. The one habit that's keeping you awake. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you sat alone in the bathroom, not to use it, but to find a little quiet, a little privacy? For a lot of men I've worked with, especially those in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, the bathroom isn't just a place for business. It becomes a kind of retreat, a private space. No interruptions, no one asking questions, just silence, stillness, and for many men, a long-standing habit, masturbating while sitting on the toilet. Now, before you shift in your seat, let me say this. I'm not here to judge. I understand why it happens. It starts out practical. You're already sitting, the door is locked, the space feels safe. Over time, that convenience becomes a routine, something you do out of habit, even comfort. But here's what no one tells you. That innocent habit, that familiar position, might be the very thing keeping you up at night. Let's break this down. When you're seated on the toilet, your body is folded forward, your thighs press upward, your abdominal muscles tighten, and your pelvic floor, the muscular hammock that holds your bladder and prostate, is put under stress. Blood flow becomes restricted. The nerves that send messages between your bladder, prostate, and brain become compressed. And the prostate itself? It's literally being pressed on, again and again, each time you engage in that position. Now remember, your prostate after 60 is more sensitive than it used to be. It doesn't take a major blow or illness to cause trouble. Repeated small pressure is enough to quietly create micro-inflammation. Over time, this tension creates a domino effect. The irritated prostate inflames the nerves around it. Those nerves, confused and reactive, begin to send false alarms to your brain. Wake up, you need to pee, even when your bladder is nearly empty. That's why you find yourself waking at 1 a.m., then 3 a.m., then again just before dawn, dragging yourself to the toilet only to release a dribble. That's not your bladder failing. That's your nervous system misfiring because of one simple, overlooked routine. I had a patient once, Marvin, 72, retired firefighter, salt and pepper beard, tough guy on the outside, but gentle soul. He came to me exhausted, said he hadn't slept a full night in years.
When we walked through his daily habits, he mentioned, in a quiet, embarrassed voice, that he often masturbated sitting down in the bathroom just like he always had. I asked him to try just one thing: stand up instead of sit down, breathe, relax, don't force anything. And within a week, Marvin went from 3 nighttime wake-ups to 1, then none. No pills, no surgery, just a small shift that gave his pelvic system room to breathe again. It amazed him. What surprised him most wasn't that it worked. It was how such a quiet, almost invisible habit could cause such a loud disruption in his sleep and energy. And let me tell you, he is not alone. The bathroom habit is common, but that doesn't mean it's harmless. If you're struggling with nighttime urination, fatigue, or even just feeling off, don't skip this step. It might feel too simple to matter, but simplicity, when applied in the right place, often has the deepest impact. Because this isn't about what's wrong with you. It's about what's been quietly stressing your system, day by day, night after night. And now that you know better, you can begin doing better.
3. How masturbation mistakes confuse your bladder. Now, if the position is one part of the problem, the technique is the other. Let's be honest here. We've spent decades doing things quickly, quietly, sometimes even secretly. And over time, that becomes the norm. You rush through release the way you'd hammer through a chore. You grip tight, you hold your breath, you push through, and your body, it learns. What most men don't realize is that every time you stimulate yourself with excessive pressure, speed, or tension, you're training your nervous system to stay in what we call fight or flight mode. That means your pelvic floor tenses, your muscles brace, and the very nerves that control urination and relaxation go haywire. So when your bladder is barely half full, those overworked nerves panic. They've been conditioned to respond to intensity, not calm. They misinterpret mild sensations as emergencies. And just like that, you're jolted awake in the middle of the night with that familiar, urgent feeling. I have to go right now. But when you get to the toilet, just a trickle, maybe nothing. Sound familiar? I asked a patient once, a gentleman named James in his late 60s, how much do you actually urinate when you wake up at 3 a.m.? He looked down and said quietly, honestly, sometimes just barely a few drops. And yet, the urgency felt unbearable. That's not psychological, that's neurological confusion. It's the result of a pattern, years of tight grip, rushed finish, forced effort that's wired your nervous system into mistaking pressure for panic. Imagine if every time you rang your doorbell, your security system thought someone was breaking in. That's what your pelvic nerves are doing, overreacting to every little nudge. Now multiply that over 10, 20, 30 years, and you've got a bladder that doesn't know the difference between just checking and code red. But here's the hopeful truth I want you to hear. You can unlearn this. Your body is wise, it adapts, it listens. And when you change the way you approach stimulation, when you slow down, soften your grip, breathe, and stop forcing, your body begins to shift. I've seen men who felt helpless for years rediscover control in a matter of days or weeks, not through meds or machines, but through mindful, gentle touch. Because here's the thing, your nervous system doesn't need more intensity. It needs reassurance. It needs you to stop yelling at it with force and start speaking to it with patience. That's where healing begins, not in effort, but in presence. So if you've been waking up tired, confused, or frustrated, don't just ask, what's wrong with my bladder? Ask, what have I been unknowingly teaching it? And if you're willing to try a different way, one built not on pressure, but on awareness, You may find that the urgency fades, the sleep returns, and your confidence begins to rebuild. And in the next part, we're going to explore exactly what that different way looks like. Because believe it or not, gentleness is power. And it might just be the missing piece you've been searching for.
4. Gentle is strong. Rewiring your routine. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Your body doesn't need more effort. It needs a different kind of attention. For decades, most of us were taught to push through everything: work, stress, pain, even pleasure. Be efficient, get it done, move on. That mindset helped us survive careers, raise families, fix what was broken. But now, that same intensity is quietly working against you. I've had countless men, tough, proud, capable, look me in the eye and say, "Doc, I just want to get it over with. I don't need all the fluff, I just need relief." And I understand. When you've lived a life of doing, slowing down feels unnecessary, even uncomfortable. But let me say this clearly. After 60, your body speaks a different language. It doesn't want force. It wants permission to soften, to open, to feel without bracing. When you approach self-pleasure with tension, rushing, or tightness, here's what happens internally. Your pelvic floor clenches. Blood flow becomes restricted. The nerves that are meant to communicate clearly with your bladder and brain, they start to panic, sending false signals, causing wake-ups, weakening your flow, and leaving you more tired than fulfilled. But when you slow down, everything changes. I've had men in their 70s rediscover entire layers of sensation, not because they did more, but because they finally did less. They stopped gripping. They started breathing. They let go of the goal and reconnected with the experience. And when they did, something beautiful happened. Their nervous systems began to trust again. The bladder calmed. The urge to urinate at night faded. Sleep deepened. Confidence returned, not just in the bedroom, but in daily life. I remember a man named Raymond, 66, soft-spoken, widowed for over a decade. He told me after his first mindful session, slow, relaxed, present, he cried. Not of sadness, but relief. I didn't realize how disconnected I had become from my own body, he said. Slowing down made me feel alive again. And that, my friend, is the real secret. This isn't about performance. It's not about what you should do or how often. It's about presence over pressure. Pleasure, connection, rest, these don't come from speed or force. They come from giving your body space to feel safe again. So here's what I encourage you to try tonight. Stand, not sit. Soften your touch, not grip like a wrench. Breathe slowly, not hold your breath. Let go of the goal. Let sensation be enough. It might feel foreign at first. That's okay. New habits always do. But with each gentle practice, you're reteaching your body. I'm listening now. You're safe. You can rest. And over time, that trust rebuilds. The urgency fades. The night becomes quiet again. And your body, instead of waking you in alarm, begins to settle into sleep, into strength, into peace. And if you're wondering how long it takes to feel that shift in your nerves, in your sleep, in your sense of control, we'll talk about that next, because what some of my patients have experienced in just 7 days may surprise you.
5. What you can expect in 7 days.
One of the first questions I get after explaining all this is simple, honest, and human. Will it actually work? My answer is yes. Not instantly, not like flipping a switch, but faster and deeper than most men ever expect, especially when they stop fighting their body and start listening to it. I think of Ed, a retired school principal, 71 years old, proud grandfather of 5, a man used to structure, to responsibility, to doing things right. He came to me exhausted, not from work, but from his own nights, waking up 2, 3 times, peeing small amounts, feeling more tired in the morning than when he went to bed. He was ready to try stronger meds. I told him, let's try something simpler first. I walked him through everything we've talked about. No sitting on the toilet, no rushing. Soften the grip. Let the body relax. He looked skeptical. Who wouldn't? But he promised to try. 7 days later, he called me. "Doc," he said, "I slept straight through. First time in years. I didn't think this kind of change was still possible." His voice wasn't just relieved, it was lighter. And Ed isn't a miracle case. He's not an exception. He's just a man who finally stopped blaming his age and started honoring his body. When you begin treating your pelvic nerves and prostate with patience instead of pressure, your entire system shifts. I've seen it over and over. Men waking up just once per night, then not at all. A stronger, steadier urine stream, less urgency, better energy, and most importantly, a quiet return of hope. Because this change doesn't just fix your sleep, it begins to repair your trust in your body. And that feeling, that quiet strength, you can feel it in 7 days, sometimes sooner. But there's still one more piece, one that goes deeper than habits or muscles, one most men never talk about. It's not about what you do, it's about what you carry. Let's talk about that next.
6. This isn't about shame, it's about wisdom. There's a weight many men carry that has nothing to do with the bladder or prostate. It's called shame. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind you tuck away in the corners of your mind, the kind that whispers, "You shouldn't need this. You're too old for this. It doesn't matter anymore." And so many men stop, not because they want to, but because they think they should. Others keep going, but in secret, rushing through it like it's a guilty indulgence instead of what it truly is, a part of being human, a part of staying connected, a part of healing. Let me say this with absolute clarity. There is nothing shameful about touching your own body. Not at 30, not at 70. Not at any age. What matters isn't whether you do it. What matters is how you relate to yourself while doing it. When you treat your own body like a burden, your nervous system learns to brace. But when you treat it like something worthy of care, your nervous system begins to trust. I've seen men rediscover a sense of aliveness they thought was gone. I've seen marriages quietly reignite, not through therapy or talk, but because one man finally treated himself with gentleness instead of judgment. And I've seen men who lived for years with quiet embarrassment finally lift their heads again, not because they became young, but because they became present. That's what this is really about. Not performance, not frequency, not age, but presence, awareness, connection. Because healing doesn't always start with medicine. Sometimes it starts when you say to yourself, "I'm still here. I still matter.
I still deserve to feel good in my body, in my rest, in my quiet moments. So let this be your reminder. You are not broken. You are not too old. You are not alone. What you need now is not more willpower, it's wisdom. And you already have it. You've lived it. Now it's time to apply it. Gently, slowly, respectfully, starting tonight. Because dignity isn't something we lose with age. It's something we reclaim when we finally come home to ourselves. 7. Conclusion. Come back to yourself. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you. Not just for your time, but for your openness. Because what we've talked about today isn't easy. It's personal. It's private. And for many men, it's something they've carried in silence for far too long. But I hope you now see the truth. This was never about weakness. It's about awareness. It's about learning to support the body you have now, with wisdom instead of force, with patience instead of pressure. We've talked about how old habits, sitting, rushing, bracing, can quietly disrupt the balance between your prostate, bladder, and nerves. We've looked at how small changes, standing instead of sitting, softening your grip, slowing your breath, can rewire your nervous system, restore your sleep, and return your confidence. And more than anything, we've touched on something deeper, that your body still matters. Your rest still matters. Your connection to yourself, especially now, in this season of life, is more valuable than ever. So here's my invitation to you. Tonight, before bed, give yourself permission to try differently. Not perfectly, just gently. Stand, breathe, be present, listen. And if this message spoke to something in you, if you feel even the smallest bit lighter, more hopeful, or more seen, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Share this with a friend who might be quietly struggling just like you were. And if you'd like to help me keep creating honest, respectful, life-changing guidance for men in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, consider making a small donation to support this channel. Because there are millions of good men out there searching for answers, and far too few places that speak to them with dignity. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing presence over pressure. And thank you for taking that quiet but powerful first step back toward your strength, your rest, and your self-respect. We'll see you next time.